Now I would like to welcome Professor Ivan Sascha Sheehan, Associate Dean of the College of Public Affairs and Professor at the University of Baltimore, a prolific scholar and policy expert on terrorism, U.S. foreign policy, and international security. He has advised policymakers in Congress and spoken on global stages. He has authored several books, and his research and advocacy have shed light on the struggle for freedom in Iran and the cause of human rights worldwide. Professor Sheehan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is such a pleasure, and it is such a privilege to stand with so many remarkable public servants and to follow my distinguished friend and dear colleague, Ambassador Lincoln Bloomfield, as we mark a milestone that is at once historic and deeply moving and profoundly hopeful. The 60th anniversary of the MEK. When we reflect on 6 decades of uninterrupted resistance, we're talking about more than just a number on a calendar. We're commemorating a lifetime of sacrifice, 60 years of relentless struggle against not one, but 2 dictatorships, both the Shah and their clerical regime that followed. Both sought to silence, dismantle, and erase this movement. And yet here you stand, still strong, still organized, still resisting, and better prepared than ever before to topple the regime in Tehran from within. For me, this is not an abstract story. It's something I have witnessed for close to 20 years, nearly a full third of your 60-year history. I've stood with you at rallies around the world, from Paris to Brussels, from Tehran to right here in Washington, D.C. I've walked the halls of Ashraf III, where your extraordinary museum tells the story of bravery and perseverance and sacrifice in ways that no history book ever could. I've sat with your leadership, listened to your stories, stories of loss and resilience, and I've met with young people who carry forward the dream of their parents and their grandparents. And along the way, I've spoken out. I've written articles and books, some of them with Ambassador Bloomfield. I've given interviews and speeches, not because it was easy, but because it needed to be done. Because I've seen your courage. I've witnessed your sacrifice, and you have invited me and so many others to stand beside you in moments of extraordinary hardship. And just as I have stood with you, you have stood with me. You have stood with me and so many others because that is who you are. You are among the best people that I know. It's often said that history is written by the victors. But in the case of the Iranian resistance, history is being written by those who refuse to surrender, by those who endured the Shah's prisons only to face the firing squads of the Ayatollahs, by those who lost tens of thousands of loved ones, including the victims of the 1988 massacre that was discussed earlier today, and still chose to rise for freedom and justice and sovereignty of the Iranian people. 60 years is proof that you are no fringe group, no manufactured opposition, because only a movement deeply rooted in grassroots support, nurtured by an underground network that survived true brutal regimes and crackdowns the likes of which we cannot even count, could endure this long and come back stronger each and every time. It is also proof of your commitment to democracy and your commitment to human rights and gender equality and the rule of law. The MEK pioneered women's leadership in a region where that was considered impossible, even impermissible. Today, your endurance, your struggle, your very survival reflects the historic role that women play at the heart of your struggle. And let us be clear, 60 years has also made you a recognized global force. You have influenced international discourse, from exposing Tehran's nuclear weapons programs to shaping debates in parliaments across Europe and North America, and so much more. Yesterday's massive rally in Brussels showed this clearly. Thousands gathered, tens of thousands, Iranian expatriates, international supporters, Western dignitaries, all to say with one voice that the solution to Iran's crisis is not appeasement, and it is not war. It is regime change by the Iranian people themselves, with the NCRI and the MEK leading the way. This is the third option, the only credible, structured, tested alternative to dictatorship in Iran. An alternative embodied in your movement's 10-point plan, which promises not chaos, not collapse, but an orderly transition to democracy, a republic based on separation of religion and state, gender equality, the rule of law, and peace with regional powers and Western neighbors. Some will ask after the fall of the mullahs, what will come next? And that's a valid question. But your 60-year history answers the question. It will not be Libya, it will not be Iraq, and it will not be Syria, but instead an Iran prepared and ready to govern itself with institutions, and leadership and vision that is already in place. My friends, I would be remiss if I did not also acknowledge the darker side of this struggle, because your endurance has come at the cost of relentless repression that was outlined beautifully by Ambassador Bloomfield. Since 2018 alone, Iran has witnessed at least 3 nationwide uprisings, many led by MEK resistance units. But the regime's response has been brutal each and every time. 750 killed in 2022, more than 850 executions in 2023, roughly 1,000 in 2024, and more than 850 this year, with several occurring this summer alone. This is not the behavior of a regime that is in control. It is the desperation of rulers who know that their time is running out. Ladies and gentlemen, Iran is weaker and more isolated than ever before in its history. And that means that the world has a rare opportunity to stand on the right side of history. We must recognize the Iranian people not as passive victims, but as active agents of change. We must see clearly that Tehran's nuclear threat and its repression at home are 2 sides of the same coin, and we must rally behind the only path forward that can prevent war, secure peace, and deliver freedom. Solidarity with Iran's democratic opposition, political support for the NCRI and the MEK, and maximum pressure on a regime that is teetering on the edge. Friends, 60 years of history. 60 years ago, few could have imagined that we would be here tonight. But because of you, because of your resilience, because of your sacrifice, we gather not in despair, but in hope. Not to look back, but to look forward to a day that is now within sight, the day when Iran is free. So today, let us honor your past, let us celebrate your present, and let us recommit ourselves to your future. Because your story is not finished. It is still being written, and I have no doubt that the final chapter will be titled, A Free Iran. Thank you all for having me here today to celebrate this special occasion.